Greetings, polyglots. I'm Lily, and welcome to my channel. This is Lily Does Critical Languages, and just like in the name, I study critical languages, so languages that are incredibly difficult for English speakers to learn, such as Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Arabic. I'm learning all of these in addition to French. But please don't let that dissuade you from watching my other videos and reading my blog as well, which I'll leave in the description, because all of the tips that I give you and all the information I give you can be applied to any language, such as Spanish, French, Italian, of course French because I'm studying it, Italian, anything else, Finnish, Polish, whatever you're learning. These are general tips that can be applied anywhere unless I say exactly you have to use this for Chinese or you must use this for Korean, etc., etc. So what does Lily Critical Languages aim to do? So this channel is for those of you who are self-studying in the long haul. So it's not for those who are going to vacation in Italy and need some survival phrases to help them get around. This is not for that, though I do welcome you to stay for the language tips if you do plan to learn Italian in the long term later on, but it doesn't have survival phrases and things like that to help you learn a language real fast. It's really not for that. What we do is I give lots of information for those of you who have been studying languages for years or plan to buckle down for a couple of years to learn a really difficult language. Hats off for those who have committed to learning a language for the next couple of years because you have sold your soul, okay? No takesies backsies. So what I do is I've seen so many different things. I've learned 5 languages and I've seen so many different types of methods of studying languages all over the internet. I've seen things that promise certain things and they promise to help you learn a language efficiently and quickly, and some are very good and some completely disappoint. So these are the things my videos are going to be talking about, my experience with these programs and my own methods that have worked so much better than anything I've ever tried, better than my courses, better than classes, better than any books, better than any online things that I've ever had. These are things that I can help you with in your self-studies. So with that in mind, I also like to mention that I'm a very straightforward person. I'm very, very blunt about language study. I think it's important to know that even though it's good to be optimistic about our language study, if you're studying a critical language, especially like me, you should know that learning these languages is not easy. It's just not every day. If you're learning Korean because you started, for example, because you like K-pop, you may have a hard time once you get to the really, really difficult parts of Korean, which is practically the whole language. Korean's very difficult because it's not all fun. It's not all fun. It's lots of nitty-gritty, lots of things that you're not really going to enjoy that much. So with that being said, I try to give information, try to give resources that will make things a lot easier for you to move forward, but you still have to put in the work, okay? And I'm going to be very straightforward about it, and I'm going to be very, no, you better. No, I'm not going to be like that, but I'm going to be very honest, okay? So that is my introduction. I'm currently in China, so the reason I came to China was that I could study Chinese intensively. So I'm pretty serious about my Chinese studies, but enough about me. Let's talk about the topic at hand here. How can you learn a language fast? I've seen this question all over the internet, literally all over the internet. People always ask, how do I learn a language fast? How do I learn it fast? How do I learn faster? I think that this question is a complete waste of time, and I think this is pointless to ask or try to figure out the answer to, because this is the wrong question. If you ask any translator or any interpreter who has learned a language near natively, they will tell you that language is a lifelong journey. If you say that I want to learn a language fast, that implies that there is an ending, right? If you learn something fast, that means you got to the end quicker than someone else, right? There's no ending to language learning. There's no end goal. You're constantly learning a language, constantly. You're just always learning. If you talk to translators, they'll say, if you ask them, how did you know, were you sure you were good enough in the language to translate it or to interpret it? And they'll go, well, I don't really know. They won't give you like a clear, straight up answer because they're still learning the language, okay? Even those who are considered near native in the language are constantly learning. So there is no end goal. So with that in mind, what's the rush? There is no rush to learn a language. There shouldn't be any rush to learn a language, okay? So the first thing we need to do to get rid of this idea that we can learn a language fast is to understand how long it actually takes to learn a language, okay? So if we look at this chart that's provided by the US government, very nifty and very awesome if I do say so myself, I will provide the link to this website in the description. We can see that in the first box, Category 1 languages, the languages that are easiest for English speakers to learn require about 600 hours of formal language study, okay, 600 hours. That is not a short period of time for sure. 600 hours is a lot of time. Now, if we scroll all the way down here to the Category 5 languages, which sounds like a really bad hurricane, it definitely is. It requires 2,200 hours of language study. Woo! So 2,200 hours. If we break it down, if you study for 2 hours every day for a year, like every day, no weekends, no holidays, every single day for a year, you would only have 670 of the hours that you need. So it will take you a little over 2 years of formal instruction to actually nail down these languages being Japanese, Chinese, Korean, and Arabic, okay? However, I've known people who take 5 years, who take 6 years, who take 8 years to learn these languages because they're very difficult and life happens. Things happen, you move, you travel, you go places, you do things, and it may slow down your language study. It's also your method, your way of studying that may speed up or slow down the way that you, how you learn the language, okay? So we shouldn't focus on speed when we learn a language, okay? We shouldn't focus on how fast we want to learn the language. We need to make sure that we're learning the language better, okay? That's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on how can I learn this language so I actually can remember the vocabulary words and not forget them later on. Because that's what slows you down. That's what that slows down your progress, so you feel like you've hit a ceiling. You can't remember vocabulary words, or you don't have the vocabulary words in the first place to talk to native speakers. For this case, you're gonna have to have a good study method to help you learn vocabulary words, helpful vocabulary words, useful vocabulary words, and then actually help you remember them, okay? So how do you do that? Here's one way, okay? Here's one way. In my later videos, I'm gonna talk about some other ways, obviously. But one way to do this is that every time you learn a vocabulary word, I want you to do 5 things for me. 5 things. The first thing I want you to do is that I want you to listen to the vocabulary word. Look at the vocabulary word and listen to the vocabulary word. And then repeat after the vocabulary word with audio. If you don't have audio, stick it in a dictionary and it'll read it for you. Okay, that's the first thing. Number 2, I want you to write the word down. Write it down somewhere in your notebook so you can look at it later. Write it down, okay? That's what I want you to do. If you're studying an Asian language like Chinese or Japanese, I want you to take the character. If it's one character, stick the character in a dictionary so that you can get the radicals, the breakdown of the radicals. It will take apart the character to the radicals and it will help you remember the character later on. If it's 2, I want you to remember what each character means, and you can take a look at the radicals just so you can remember how to write down the character and remember it for later, but you don't have to write down the radicals. You can stick it in this written Chinese dictionary. For example, if we stick in the word love, here's the breakdown of characters, and here are the radicals, okay? So, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to make a joke. Make a joke with the language to help you remember the vocabulary word. Make a funny joke. So, for example, in Japanese, hei tai means a soldier. Hei tai means a soldier. So I saw this funny thing online that someone made where they had a picture of a soldier and a knot. And it said, soldier, hei tai me a knot. Hei tai me a knot. And so you have the 2 soldiers standing there staring at a knot, and it was really interesting. So now I won't forget hei tai, because hei tai means to tie to a soldier. Hei tai means a soldier. So that was really, really helpful. The next thing I want you to do is look up a sample sentence for how to use the vocabulary word, especially if it's an adjective or a verb. For Asian languages in particular, there are very specific ways that you have to use adjectives and verbs. They're never used exactly the way that they're translated in English because they have specific context and specific usages. And you must understand these. You absolutely must understand what these usages are if you're going to speak the language more fluently and correctly. Okay. For most of these, you can stick a word in a dictionary. If it's not already provided in your textbook or program or whatever, stick it in a dictionary and they will provide some sample sentences for you. If you're studying Korean, you may use Naver, N-A-V-E-R, and you can stick a vocabulary word into the search box. And if you scroll all the way down, it will give you some examples of how native speakers have used the word in videos, such as interviews and variety shows, and lots of really fun things. If you really like K-pop, it will really be very interesting to you. So, at the end of everything, you have to review, at the end of the week, everything that you learned. And then the next week until you have until you've decided that you have learned it as well as you can. Does this take longer? Yes, these are 5 things you have to do every time you learn every single vocabulary word. So it takes longer for sure. But if you put in the work now, you will learn the language a little bit quicker later on. You will retain this knowledge. You put in the work now, you will retain the knowledge and you won't have to keep reviewing, or you won't forget constantly your vocabulary words and grammar, because that's where the lack of progress comes. That's where the rut or the slowness, the things that hinder you, come into play, right there, where you forget vocabulary words and you don't have a good method for studying, learning useful vocabulary words and remembering them. Okay, that's what you want to focus on. How do I remember these vocabulary words? Put in work now, you will save time later. This speeds up your language learning process. So focus on your language learning method altogether, okay? And that will increase your learning rate naturally. So don't focus on the speed, focus on the method. Because the reality of the matter is that a language can never be fast. You're never going to learn a language as fast as you want to. Okay, you have to put in the work and you have to grind through it. It has to be nitty-gritty, all of that stuff right now, so that you can later on be able to bring this up casually in conversation, beautifully, lovely. Look what I learned. This is gorgeous. This kind of thing, naturally and fluently in a conversation, okay? Because you have done 5 things to just nail in that vocabulary word, just like to really get it in there, okay? So, with this in mind, I hope you enjoyed this video. There will be more videos to come. I will leave in the description all the links that I talked about, all of the websites that I went on to show you how to look up things. And take a look at my blog. Definitely, lots of resources there for you. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. And I hope you subscribe. Please do subscribe because that would be awesome. Pretty please. And also leave a like. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.